You stand on the first tee, you take that big swing you've had for 40 years, and the ball just falls out of the sky 20 yards shorter than the guy next to you who's 10 years older than you are. I lived that. For nearly 2 decades, I blamed my back, my age, my swing. I was wrong. The real thief was sitting in my own hands the whole time, and it cost me thousands of dollars and thousands of yards before I figured it out. Here's the truth. I wish someone had told me at 60. The right driver, matched to a slower swing, can give a senior golfer back 15 to 30 yards without swinging one bit harder. I learned that the hard way, after buying 7 drivers in 12 years and getting slower every single season. By the end of this, I'll show you the 5 best drivers for seniors in 2026, and I'll share one fitting secret buried in a 1998 engineering rule from the United States Golf Association that almost nobody at the pro shop will explain to you, and this works whether you swing 85 miles an hour or barely break 70. Let me take you back to a cold spring morning at my home course in Ohio. I remember standing over my ball, watching my buddy Ray, who was 73 at the time, outdrive me by 25 yards with a swing that looked like he was swatting a fly. I was younger, I was stronger, and I was embarrassed. That morning is the reason I spent the next 2 years learning everything I'm about to tell you. So let me start with the thing that stung the most. For years, I believed that losing distance was just what happened when you got older. You turn 60, you turn 65, and you accept that the ball doesn't go anywhere anymore. Everybody around me believed it too. We'd stand on the tee and laugh about it like it was a law of nature. But it isn't a law of nature. It's a mismatch. And once I understood the science, I couldn't unsee it. Here's what actually happens to a golf swing as we age. Somewhere in our 50s and 60s, most of us lose swing speed. That part is real. A golfer who once swung the driver at 100 miles an hour might now swing it at 80 or 75 or even lower. Ball speed follows swing speed, and distance follows ball speed. So far, that sounds like bad news. But here's the part nobody explained to me. The driver I was playing was built for the man I used to be, not the man I had become. It was too heavy. The shaft was too stiff, and the loft was far too low. I was swinging a young man's weapon with an old man's engine, and I was paying for it every single hole. Let me explain loft, because this one thing changed my game more than any other. Loft is the angle on the face of the driver, the amount it tilts back. More loft launches the ball higher, and here's the secret that the fast young players never have to think about. When your swing speed drops, you need more loft to get the ball into the air and keep it there long enough to carry. For years, I played a driver with 9 degrees of loft because that's what the long hitters on television played, and I thought more loft was for beginners. That was pure ego, and it was robbing me blind. When I finally switched to 10.5 degrees, and later to 12, my ball started climbing into the air the way it hadn't in a decade. I gained carry distance instantly, not from swinging harder, from letting the club do the job it was designed to do. Now, why does this matter so much for a slower swing? Because a slower swing produces less backspin lift and the ball comes down sooner. A higher launch angle keeps the ball in the air longer, so it carries farther before it lands. Testing from club fitting labs has shown that a golfer swinging around 80 miles an hour often gets maximum distance with a launch angle up near 15 or 17 degrees. Most seniors I know launch the ball far too low and they lose 20 yards of carry to the ground. So that was lesson 1. But understanding the loft only opened a bigger question, one that took me down a rabbit hole into the actual history of how these clubs came to be. Because to understand why the modern driver can either save a senior or sabotage him, you have to understand where it came from. Let me take you back to 1979. A man named Gary Adams took out a loan against his home, rented a small building across from a television repair shop in Illinois, and founded a company called TaylorMade. His crazy idea was to build a driver head out of steel instead of the persimmon wood everyone had used for a century. People laughed at him. Wood was tradition. Wood was what real golfers played. But that steel head, that first metal wood, did something wood could never do. It moved the weight to the outside edges of the club head and it created a spring-like effect off the face that sent the ball farther. Within about 10 years, persimmon was dead, and every driver on Earth was hollow metal. Then came 1991, and a company called Callaway released a driver with an oversized head and a name everyone remembers, the Big Bertha. It was bigger than anything before it, and that bigger head made it far more forgiving on mishits. For the first time, an average golfer could miss the center of the face and still get a decent result. That is the single most important idea in this entire video, so hold on to it. Forgiveness. Here's why forgiveness matters more to us than to anyone. Engineers measure it with something called moment of inertia, and I know that sounds like a college physics class, so let me make it simple. Moment of inertia is a fancy way of saying how much the club head resists twisting when you don't hit it dead center. When a young player with a fast, repeatable swing hits the middle every time, he doesn't need much forgiveness. But you and me, we miss the center. We catch it a little on the heel, a little on the toe, and a low forgiveness driver twists on those misses and sends the ball sideways and short. A high forgiveness driver barely twists. It holds the ball on line and keeps your ball speed up even on a bad hit. That means straighter drives and more distance on the exact swings where we need help the most. So now I understood two things. I needed more loft and I needed more forgiveness. But here's where the story turns, and here's where I started to get angry. Because once I knew what to look for, I realized how much I'd been steered in exactly the wrong direction for years. Walk into most golf shops and what gets pushed to the front? The low loft, low spin, tour-inspired drivers with the aggressive names and the professional endorsements, the clubs built for players who swing over 100 miles an hour. Those clubs are marketed to everyone, plastered on every advertisement, worn by every player we watch on the weekend, and a whole industry has grown up around convincing ordinary golfers that if they just buy the same club the professionals use, they'll hit it like the professionals do. I bought driver after driver chasing the newest, hottest, tour-proven model, and every one of them was wrong for my swing. I was the perfect customer, loyal, hopeful, and misinformed. And I'm telling you, the equipment made for a 70-year-old with a 75-mile-an-hour swing rarely gets the spotlight because it doesn't have the glamour. It just has the results. The saddest part is how many good players quit or gave up distance they never had to lose, all because nobody sat them down and explained the three numbers that actually matter for an aging swing: loft, weight, and shaft flex. So let me give you those three right now, because this is the part that helps you today with whatever driver is sitting in your garage this very minute. You do not need to buy anything to use the next few minutes. This is for the golfer who's thinking, that's fine for people with money to spend, but I'm playing what I've got. Good. This part is especially for you. First, weight. Pick up your driver and feel it. Total weight matters enormously for a slower swing, and most older drivers, and nearly all the tour models, are far too heavy for us. A heavier club is harder to accelerate, and speed is everything. Many senior-friendly drivers today come in under 300 grams total, with shafts in the 50-gram range. If your driver feels like a sledgehammer at the end of a long round, it's too heavy, and it's slowing you down without you even knowing it. Second, shaft flex. This is the one almost nobody checks. The shaft bends during your swing, and it needs to bend the right amount for your speed. If you swing under about 85 miles an hour and you're playing a stiff shaft, that shaft is too rigid to load and release properly, and you're leaving distance on the table on every swing. Most seniors should be in a regular flex, and a great many should be in a senior flex, sometimes labeled with an A or the word light. There's no shame in it. I resisted the senior flex for years out of pure pride, and pride never added a single yard to my drives. Third, and I already told you this one, loft. If you swing slower, go up in loft. 10.5 degrees at the very least, and honestly, many of us should be at 12 or even higher. The higher launch will carry farther and land softer. Now here's a technique you can do this weekend, right on the tee, at no cost. Tee the ball higher. I mean it. Most seniors tee the ball too low, a habit left over from playing smaller heads decades ago. With today's big driver heads, You want at least half the golf ball sitting above the top edge of the driver when it's resting on the ground. Teeing it high encourages you to hit up on the ball at impact, and hitting up instead of down adds launch and cut spin, which is exactly the combination a slower swing needs for maximum carry. I gained roughly 8 yards the week I started teeing it higher, and it didn't cost me a nickel. One more free adjustment. Move the ball forward in your stance, up off the inside of your lead heel. That also helps you catch the ball on the upswing. Between teeing it higher and playing it forward, most golfers I've helped pick up 10 to 15 yards without touching their wallet or changing their swing. That is the lie that cost me the most. And the full story of how I finally untangled it is something I want to share with you beyond what fits in a single video. I put everything I learned, the loft charts, the shaft flex guides, the strike location drills, and the full equipment framework I built over 2 years of testing into a book called First Foundations, and it's part of a complete series that goes all the way through hidden leverage and into the complete system. If you want to go deeper than any single video can take you, the links are in the description below this video. But let's keep moving, because understanding the lie is only half the battle. The other half is knowing exactly what to look for when you walk into that shop. But here's the thing, those free adjustments have a ceiling. They can wake up the driver you own, but they can't rebuild it. And at some point, if that club is 15 years old and built like a fence post, you're fighting a losing battle. Which brings me to the 5 drivers that actually deserve a senior's money in 2026, ranked from number 5 all the way up to the one I'd hand my own brother. Let me start at number 5. In this spot, I'm putting the Cobra driver line, and specifically their Dark Speed family. Here's why it earns a place. Cobra has quietly become one of the best values in golf, often priced below the biggest names by $50 to $100, and their heads are genuinely forgiving. What I love for seniors is that Cobra offers real draw-biased and lightweight options right out of the box, meaning weight positioned to help fight the slice that plagues so many aging swings. If your miss is a weak fade that leaks out to the right and dies, a draw-biased Cobra can straighten that out and turn a slice into a gentle draw that rolls. The reason it's at number 5 and not higher is simply that the fitting support and the shaft options can be a little thinner than the Giants, but dollar for dollar, it's a tremendous piece of equipment for a slower swing. Now, therefore, since we're talking about fighting the slice, let me move up to number 4, because this next one takes forgiveness to an extreme. Number 4 is the Ping driver line, the G series, running through the G430 and into the newer G440 generation. Ping has built its entire reputation on one thing, and it's the thing we talked about earlier, forgiveness. Their drivers routinely test at or near the very top of the industry for moment of inertia, that resistance to twisting on off-center hits. For a senior who sprays the ball a little, a Ping is like a safety net under a tightrope. Ping also makes a model they build specifically lighter and higher launching for slower swings. And if you've ever stood on the tee terrified of where the ball is going, this is the club that quiets that fear. It sits at number 4 only because that maximum forgiveness design can feel a touch less lively to golfers who still have a bit of speed left. But for pure straightness, almost nothing beats it. Now here's where the rankings get harder, because the top 3 are all superb, and the difference comes down to what your swing needs most. So let me climb to number 3. Number 3 is the TaylorMade line, and I find a certain justice in this, since we started our whole history lesson with Gary Adams and that first metalwood back in 1979. The modern TaylorMade drivers, the Chi line and its lightweight variations, carry a technology in the face that flexes to protect ball speed on the low strikes, the exact strikes seniors tend to make when they catch the ball a little thin. TaylorMade also builds a genuinely light, high-launch version aimed right at slower swings, and the sound and feel at impact are crisp and satisfying, which matters more than people admit. Confidence over the ball is worth yards. The only reason it's number 3 and not number 1 is price. These clubs sit at the very top of the market, often $450 to $600 new, and while they're excellent, you can find nearly the same senior benefit for less, which leads me therefore straight to number 2. Number 2 is the Callaway driver line. And again, listen to the echo of history, because it was Callaway and the Big Bertha back in 1991 that first proved an oversized, forgiving head could save the average golfer. Callaway never forgot that lesson. Their modern drivers use artificial intelligence to design the face, mapping out thousands of tiny variations so that ball speed stays high across a much larger area of the face. For us, that means our off-center hits behave more like center hits. Callaway also consistently offers a lightweight, high-launch, draw-bias model, and in my own testing, it produced the most consistent carry distance on my mishits of almost anything I tried. It's number 2 by a hair, and honestly, on a different day, it could be number 1. But when it came time to choose the single best driver for seniors in 2026, I kept coming back to one machine, and here's my number 1. My number 1 for seniors this year is the Ping G440 in its lightest, highest launch senior configuration, paired with a lightweight senior flex shaft. And I know I already praised Ping at number 4 for its standard model, but hear me out, because this is the whole point of everything I've learned. The best driver for a senior is not the one with the most speed or the flashiest name. It's the one that turns your worst swings into playable golf shots and keeps you in the fairway hole after hole. This particular setup marries the highest forgiveness in the game to a genuinely light head and shaft that a slower swing can actually accelerate, with enough loft to launch the ball high and carry it far. When I put that combination in play, my drives didn't just go farther, they went straighter, which meant I was hitting my second shots from the short grass instead of the trees, and that saved me more strokes than raw distance ever did. So there's your 5. Cobra for value and draw help. Ping G Series for maximum forgiveness. Tailor-made for feel and low strike speed. Callaway for its smart face and miss-hit consistency. And the Ping Senior setup at the very top for the whole package. Any one of these will serve you well, but none of them, not a single one, will reach its full potential until you understand the one thing I promised you at the very beginning, the buried secret. And it's not a product at all. Here's the story. Back in the late 1990s, the drivers were getting so powerful that the ball was flying too far for the game's own good, and in 1998, the United States Golf Association drew a hard line in the sand. They created a limit on how much spring the face of a driver is allowed to have. The engineers call it the coefficient of restitution, and the rule capped it at a number 0.83. Every legal driver made since then, from the cheapest to the most expensive, is capped at that exact same spring-like effect. Let that sink in. The $300 driver and the $600 driver have the identical maximum trampoline off the face because the law says they must. So what does that mean for you? It means the face itself can't legally give you more distance than the bargain club already has. The distance difference between drivers for a senior is almost never about the face. It's about getting the ball to launch high with low spin and keeping ball speed up on your mishits. That's it. That's the whole secret the pro shop rarely spells out. And here's the part that changes everything. The buried technique nobody tells you. Because the face is capped at 0.83 across the board, the single greatest source of lost distance for a senior is not the driver, it's the strike location on the face, and specifically, it's hitting the ball too low on the face and toward the heel. Testing has shown that hitting the ball just a little high on the face, above the true center, actually launches it higher with less spin and can add 10 to 20 yards of carry from the exact same swing and the exact same club. So here is what I want you to do this weekend, and it costs you nothing. Buy a can of the cheap foot spray powder or grab some simple face tape and spray a light coat on your driver face at the range. Hit 10 balls. Now look at the marks. I'll bet you money the marks are low on the face and toward the heel because that's where nearly every senior strikes it. Then do 2 things. Tee the ball higher so the center of the ball lines up with a point above the middle of the face. And make your one thought hitting the ball on the way up, brushing the tee forward. Watch those impact marks climb toward the upper center of the face. When they do, you will see your launch rise, your spin drop, and your distance jump, all without swinging one bit harder. I found that trick confirmed in Fitting Lab data built on that very same 1998 spring limit rule, and it did more for my game than any driver I ever bought. That is the hero's journey of this whole thing. The knowledge existed, The engineers knew it. The rule from 1998 practically spelled it out. But it got buried under marketing and glamour and the endless push to sell us the newest tour model, until the average senior golfer believed his lost distance was just old age. It was never old age. It was a mismatch and a strike point, and now you know how to fix both. Let me leave you with this. You didn't lose those yards to the calendar. They were quietly taken from you, one wrong club and one low strike at a time, and today you're taking them back. That's what this is really about. Not spending more, but finally understanding the game well enough that nobody can sell you the wrong thing again. You strike me as the kind of person who refuses to keep paying premium prices for results you can get with a little knowledge and a can of foot spray. That's exactly who this is for. The golfer who wants to think for himself and outsmart the marketing instead of falling for it. So here's what I want you to do. Tell me in the comments what driver you're playing right now and how old it is. If it's more than 10 years old and you've never once checked your shaft flex or your loft, say so, and say it out loud, because I read these and I want to see how many of us have been fighting the same losing battle. Leave that comment. Don't just think it, type it. And if you want to keep recovering the knowledge that the golf industry would rather keep quiet, come along with the rest of us who are done overpaying and underperforming. In the next one, I'm breaking down the one club in your bag that seniors should replace before the driver, the club that quietly costs you more strokes than any other, and the $70 option that outperforms clubs 3 times the price. You won't believe which club it is, but once I show you, you'll never look at your bag the same way again. I lived every yard of what I just walked you through, and we barely scratched the surface. Inside my membership, the Practical Wisdom Circle, I pick up right where this video stopped. You can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself. No robots. You truly belong here with folks just like you. Just point your phone at the code on screen. Cancel anytime, one click. Come join me.